That was beautiful, thank you. Quick announcements. We have Senator Russell Werdeman and Island Naturals. Let's thank them for the wonderful healthy snacks back there. Just going to go quickly around the room. We have Department of Water, Department of Environmental Management. We have State Highways, Helco, FEMA is here to answer any of your questions. We have Fire, Police, Department of Public Works. We have Neighborhood Watch, American Red Cross. We have the CERT team. We have the USGS, the Hawaiian Volcanoes Observatory gang in the back. We have acupuncturists Without Borders, DHS, SNAP, Southern Baptist Disaster Relief, Catholic Charities, Hawaiian Volcanoes National Park, Oceanic, Hilo, and HCC, and Department of Health. I also wanted to make a really quick announcement. If you have not received this, we'll be passing this out. It's for the Hawaii Island Wellbeing Challenge. And for every person that goes on and do a health assessment online, HMSA will donate $4 to Puna Relief Fund. Okay? So if you have any questions about this, we have Brandon over there that can answer it, and we can help you get this taken care of. So without, I guess that's it. We're going to call up Steve from USGS.
Hello everybody, good evening. Can you hear me okay? No? Okay. I have lots of room to walk around up here. I'm not sure what happened to the tables, but before I get started, I'd like to introduce my colleagues who are here tonight to help you with any of your questions that you may have about the lava flows and the map products that we've been putting out for the past several months. We have Paula Kubo over here. He's our staff seismologist. And way in the back, all the way from the Alaska Volcano Observatory, is Tina Neal. She was here, started her career at the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory in the early 80s and was here during the eruption of Mauna Loa in '84. And also in the far corner is Kevin Kamabayashi. So, does everybody here know what a lava breakout is? I'm probably going to say the word breakout like 100 times in the next 20 minutes, so please forgive me. This is a photograph taken just this afternoon of a breakout occurring from one of the new lobes of lava that broke out from the main tube earlier this week. This particular flow is just below the house that was burned earlier this week on Monday, and just below the fish pond on that property. Okay, so I have several things that I wanted to emphasize tonight. First being that the discharge of lava from Pu'uo'o is continuing. It remains at a relatively low level, but just after Frank's talk last Thursday night, the next day we measured a slight increase in the amount of discharge in the lava tube. So it increased by about maybe as much as 20% from the previous week or two. So that slight extra discharge into the tube may be the explanation for all of the breakouts that we have been observing over this past week. Maybe. So there are several breakouts occurring from the main lava tube below Pahoa Street. These are relatively small breakouts that are from either the main tube or from smaller lobes of lava that have broken out in the past week. There are also some larger breakouts occurring upslope of Pahoa Street, and I'll be talking about that specifically in just a few minutes. And these additional surface flows are widening the flow field and also making the flows thicker. And at the same time, the parts of the flows are inflating. So they're growing from within, they're growing wider, and they're growing thicker with lava overplating themselves. And then finally, the most vigorous lobe that started in the past week or so is just to the west of the transfer station. It's the most vigorous lobe, and as I'll show you the future path, if it keeps moving forward in the next several days to a week, the path of that lava flow is not completely certain. And I will show you a few images of why that's the case. Okay, so first of all, we go up to the slope of Pu'uo'o. Again, this was the day after Frank Truesdale gave his presentation last Thursday night. This is what we saw. And the shiny patches of lava that you see here represent lava that spilled out of the lava tube and onto the flanks of Pu'uo'o. And that's a pretty clear sign. Right away we knew that there probably was an increase in discharge through the lava tube, an increase in discharge from Pu'uo'o, and or there was a blockage in the lava tube such that the lava backed up, spilled out of the skylight for a bit, and then was able to push its way through the skylight. This is a little camera that we have been using to try to capture images of the lava level in the skylight. Ordinarily, the skylight would have been a few meters deep, but instead the lava welled out of, let's back up. Welled out of the skylight, spilled out around the surface, torched our camera, melted the whole front end of the camera system here. It gives you an idea of how hot that was. But the camera survived, just the housing didn't. Okay, so now for a few pictures, about 13 and a half miles from Pu'uo'o. Lava that is pouring out of Pu'uo'o is moving through the lava tube, the main tube, for about 13 and a half miles, all the way down to the front of the flow area, the leading edge. This was a photograph taken at the transfer station on the south side earlier this afternoon. And as Daryl has been describing so well in his radio updates, the lava went up against the fence, kind of filtered through the fence over the past several days, and now it's thickening up and moving across this area here. I wanted to show you results of what happens when lava flows inflate. This is a lava flow that broke out just above Pahoa Street last weekend on Sunday. And the lava crossed the road, and then it took a left-hand turn and moved in this direction. Here is the garage. The roof over the garage, the house is behind that, and this flow ended up burning the house that next day on Monday. So this is a picture of the lava flow. You see how thin it is. Here's a fence post. So that fence post is maybe this high. So if we come back to this area a few days later, 2 days later, you can see how thick that lava flow is. Here's the fence. And I'm a little tall. This is Tina back there. I'm a little taller than Tina, so I'm looking just across the top of the flow. There's the top of the house, of the garage roof. And so even now, lava is moving through this thickened lava flow. It's moving through the core of that flow and finding its way past this tree, past the house, and feeding the flow front down slope. And it's not moving very fast. It's maybe a few meters a day. Maybe in the past day it's moved 10 or 20 meters. Those rates change constantly. But these are relatively small breakouts that are occurring at the leading edges of this particular flow. They're intermittent. There's not like a sustained flow front that's just charging ahead. Here's what one of these breakouts looks like just below the house and below the fish pond. This was taken this afternoon. Okay, so we back up a little bit, get back up into a helicopter. This was a couple of images taken yesterday, early morning, so the image is a little fuzzy. We had to brighten it up. So over here, here's Pahoa Village Road. Here's a Pahoa Street that circles back around, the water tank. The transfer station would be right about here. Here's where the original flow stalled, right about here. Cemetery would be back about in here. So here is a thermal infrared image taken at the same time of that flow front area. And warm colors represent hot temperatures, heat, and the brightest areas that you see here are the active flows moving on the surface. And so this shows you a pretty good location of where these lava flows are occurring. These little small breakouts on the margin of the cemetery, right from the main tube. Here's a breakout from the tube that happened last Sunday that moved against the transfer station. Another breakout here moved across the road, took out the house, and is still moving slowly. But this is the largest lobe here, and it broke out over the weekend from the main part of the flow above that sort of narrow lava tube. And so this is the part of the flow that I'm going to talk about here now. So let's go back to our map of the lines of steepest descent. These, again, are lines that represent steep gradient and where the lava flows are most likely to travel as they move down slope. So just to orient us again, Pahoa, here's Pahoa Street right there, transfer station here. The red indicates the new lava flows covering an area between November 10, Monday, and Wednesday. So over a 2-day period, the lava filled in areas indicated by the dark red. So in this particular flow, you notice that there are no blue lines very close to that flow. And that's an indication that there's no real clear, no sharp sort of topographic slope preferentially for that flow to move toward. And let's see if we can, so this is a critical area right there, in the sense of which direction will that flow travel if it keeps moving forward in the next several days. And as I will show you, the flow will either make a left-hand turn or probably make a right-hand turn. Okay, so here's an aerial view of that map, basically. And I wanted to point out where the active breakouts are occurring. See if I got this right. Okay, so these are breakouts occurring. Here's the lowest one occurring right from the main lava tube, which runs right through here. Here's the cemetery. You notice that there aren't any active breakouts down on the lower part of the flow. So the lava tube probably ends right in this area. That is, molten lava is not continuing to move down into this lower area. That's why there have been no breakouts there in the past couple of weeks. This is a breakout that occurred this morning, and here you can't see it in this image because this was taken yesterday. So there wasn't a new breakout. It almost reached the cemetery road here. This is an area where, next to the transfer station, where lava broke out upslope from the main lava tube and flowed in this direction. There was another breakout that came in, took this house out, and now is feeding this particular lava flow. There is some surface activity right on the surface of the flow up above that narrow gully and narrow lava tube. And the most vigorous flow or lobe is occurring right there in that egg-shaped feature. So what I've done is tried to mark out in general where these flows are occurring and how they're being fed from lava right from the main lava tube. So here's a basic location of where the lava tube, the main lava tube, exists now. And then we have a number of these small little breakouts that occurred, and depending on how vigorous they were and how long they lasted, they continue to supply lava to the flow front, and in a sense are forming their own little mini tube or conduit system, a lens-like conduit as the flows move across the ground and then inflate. And then there's a bigger flow occurring upslope, and it's spilling out of the tube system up above this tube, somewhere up on this flow. It's not very clear what that tube system structure looks like up there. We can't really identify a single tube. It's a very broad feature. There must be many little conduits in that area. And one of them happened to break out over the weekend, or maybe last Friday, and start moving in this direction. Okay, so if this particular flow keeps moving forward, it's going to most likely follow the path of steepest descent and continue on a downward slope just along the north margin of the existing lava flow. I think that makes sense. Everybody probably would have suggested that. But this other flow up here does have the potential to approach Pahoa Street when it reaches this curve, to perhaps make a right-hand turn, and as I said, and it might also make a left-hand turn. And we don't have enough confidence in the flow path, these descent lines in that particular area to say with much confidence that, which way is that flow going to go. And actually, we think it could possibly go in both directions. If the flow is wide enough, and it's reaching a kind of a little crest, part can go that way and part can go over here. And so then it will depend on which of those particular arms captures most of the flow from upslope. I should mention that for the past week or so, that particular flow has been moving forward downslope, about 200 meters, 220 yards a day. But in the past day or so, that slowed to 100 meters or 120 yards or so a day. So again, we're seeing these varying advance rates as we have observed over the past several months. And it all kind of depends on how much of the lava from the main tube system upslope is being funneled in this direction into that lobe versus how much is going to continue moving down through the tube system along here. So here's a different view of Pahoa and Pahoa Street, the transfer station. And you see the smoke rising from behind the transfer station. That's from the lava that's spilling up over that fence, or through the fence, I should say. And here's that lava lobe that's traveling from the main body of the flow where she is. Okay, so you kind of see how this topography, how very gentle it is. It's really hard to discern anything that would send it one way or the other. We had our ground crews out there today, Tim Orr and Matt Patrick and some others, and they walked around out here and could not see or find any of micro-topographic features like a little fault line or an old lava flow that would help push the lava or direct it into one area or another. It's a pretty gently sloped area out here. Okay, so next I'd like to just show you a series of these maps in sequence to give you an idea of how this flow has been widening and how new loads have been spreading down slope for the past couple of weeks, or maybe week or so. And just as a little bit of a refresher, the dark red that you're going to see on each of the maps represents the most recent area covered or added to the current lava flow. So in this case, between November 3rd, which had the flow outline in the pink area, and November 5th, 2 days, the lava flow added some here, added some on this particular lobe, added some here, and so on. So this is sort of the root of the flow that's moving now out in this direction, this way. So let's just go through these. So this next map is on November 7. I'll kind of go back and forth a little bit. In this case, you see how a little finger kind of shot out here to the northwest. Some got added here. It's filling in a kapuka. More lava is being added along here, upslope of the transfer station, and so on. So I'll go back up a little bit. Whoops, I didn't back up, I went forward. Okay, we're at the start of the map sequence. We'll go forward. One more. So this is on November 10th. This is the map we made on Monday, and you see how this arm shot out in a matter of 3 days. So maybe 200 meters, maybe a little bit more, 200 meters a day or so. Here's the little breakout that is headed toward the transfer station. So you see how far upslope it broke out. Here's one that broke out and actually crossed the Pahoa Street, and I showed you the picture of the inflation feature. And this is the one that encroached upon the house. There's a little fish pond. You see a little bit of breakout down here. And see if I can back up again. There's number 7. There's the 10th. And there's the 12th. My most recent map. Okay, so in conclusion, Pu'uo'o remains active. It's still sending lava into the lava tube, but at a relatively low rate. There may have been, we think there was an increase in lava discharge into the lava tube, and that may have resulted in additional breakouts downslope. Also, there are, as we've seen, there are many breakouts both below and above Pahoa Street. It's making the flow field wider, making the flow field thicker. And the most vigorous flow or active flow is the one just west of the transfer station, and the path that it will take in the next several days, if it keeps moving forward, it keeps moving down slope, is unclear to us. So there are a couple possibilities. We'll just have to wait and see what the flow actually does and what direction it ends up taking. Okay, thank you very much.
We will now hear from Darrell Oliveira, Civil Defense Administrator.
Thank you. Good evening. Can you hear me in the back okay? Okay, as you heard from Steve, what's the status of the current eruption activity and flow activity? Based on, as you said, it's so difficult to forecast with any certainty what's going to be the flow path. We're going to continue to be as proactive as we can, keeping you informed as well as taking the necessary steps. One is, last evening, some of you in the Pahoa Street area, as well as down in the lower areas, may have been contacted door to door by our CERT team at Red Cross. And that's just to let everyone know that, again, we're watching it. We'll let you know if an evacuation is necessary. It's not necessary at this time, based on the current flow rates. We did see a slowdown today. We'll continue to monitor that. But it was just to verify, again, with everyone, if you need any assistance or any special needs, if there's an evacuation order coming forward, that we maintain that close contact with you. So we did that yesterday evening. So again, thank you for being patient and answering questions for both Red Cross and our CERT. It's going to be helpful for us if we do need to move towards an evacuation. As Steve pointed out, there's definitely concerns with the uncertainty of the flow path, because if it comes down along or on a Pahoa Street, there's some critical infrastructure. Helpo's main transmission line runs down that particular corridor. So we're working very closely with Helpo. They're looking at ways to protect, again, their infrastructure there, as well as contingency plans if they lose that. I think we can all take some assurance in what has happened so far, that the agencies and departments are all working very hard to sustain services, utilities, everything. If you saw what happened on Pahoa Street with Hilo losing a pole but maintaining uninterrupted service, they put in a steel pole, they extended the height of the wires. They've been working very hard to provide for uninterrupted service with the They've brought in what resources they have available to possibly raise heights elsewhere. They've been today working very hard on securing some of the anchor systems up on the corner of Pahoa Street. In the event the flow comes in that direction, they'll have security of their poles and service there. The water department, if you've ever driven on Pahoa Street, there is a large water tank, a gravity feed system that provides water to some of you as customers. The water department, again, in anticipation and uncertainty of where this flow would go, had already established alternate water supplies. The well system here behind the school, as well as the source coming from the Kenoi area. So there should be no interrupted water service going forward, even if that particular water site is affected. They're also looking at protecting the well itself there by putting a similar type of protective barriers around it with aggregate and cinder. In the event it is affected, the ability to go back and reestablish that well in the future. So they are doing what they can also to provide for uninterrupted service. So again, everybody's working very hard, and appreciate your understanding with the difficulties that HVO is having with forecasting the flow path. We will definitely keep you informed. We'll definitely stay very close in contact with residents that may be affected. One thing you may have seen too with the one house we lost on Monday. It's our goal to work with each and every resident if you are threatened or your property is threatened, to make sure that you have the opportunity to document what happens, to observe what happens, provided it's safe, and again, part of the closing process. We hope we don't lose any more structures, but if that happens, we're going to work with each and every resident to allow for the process together. We'll go through it. Again, we hope we don't lose any more structures, and we'll just watch what happens. Some of the burning that you saw on the slides from Steve, most of it is vegetation, but as it's well known to everyone, some of the burning is on the asphalt in the transfer station. We are monitoring the air quality. So far, the particulate counts that we're seeing, Department of Health has currently 2 air monitors in place in the community, one at the Haas School and one at the Pahoa School. They're going to be putting up a 3rd air quality monitoring station down in Leilani. We know that in sometimes during the evening with the different wind patterns, the corridor from here down to Leilani, down to Kalapana seems to get hit very hard with smoke conditions throughout the night. So we are monitoring the particulate counts, which is the particles that are in the air that are suspended and may pose health issues. So far those counts are not within any range that would result in any health problems. But for those that may be sensitive or have respiratory problems, again, the best thing you can do is remain indoors, limit your outdoor activity, and if need be, and if it's possible within your means to maybe move out of the area temporarily while the smoke conditions are high, and then come back when it improves. Because we're going to see southern wind type patterns for the next few days, which means the wind's going to be blowing all the smoke towards Ainaloa, HPP, Keao, and all in that direction. So there will be higher volumes of smoke or higher presence of smoke, and not only smoke from what's happening here, but also from the fog at both of the vents. When we get a southerly wind component, the fog is really heavy in the areas from here all the way through to Hilo. So again, we're expecting southerly wind going forward for the next few days. As far as the transportation or the road issues, again, we reopened the post office road to 2-way traffic. Again, appreciate everybody's patience with that. I'm trying to do things in a manner that first ensures the safety of everyone. And again, we're going to try to work to making things as least inconvenient and minimize the impact on the community. We know many of the businesses were suffering because of the alternate traffic pattern and limited flow through town, so hopefully this might provide some relief, because Pahoa is a thriving town and we want to keep it that way, and if we can minimize the impact and continue the businesses to be operational and provide everything from food to services in here, we want to do that. So again, we apologize for that inconvenience. As far as the remaining closure of the village road, right now it's still possible to have a breakout that's close enough that would require a reclosure of that road. And sometimes it's difficult to reclose something once we open it. So you can, again, bear with us for a little while longer. If and when it's safe to do so, we will. And I'll just close it. Lastly, we do get inquiries from people wanting to go and see the lava and asking us why don't we allow the viewing. Well, a couple of things. One, it's on private property, so we want to respect the private landowners. Two is there's still a lot of hazards, as Steve has shared last week, and I'm sure you had it in his slides tonight. We're still seeing methane explosions of fairly good size that are throwing projectile rock in many directions. We don't want to see anybody hurt. We also have the utility companies helpful working on their poles. So there's a lot of heavy trucks, big equipment on the road, which again, we need for them to be able to do their job safely and not cause any problems or interfere with their operations. And lastly, with the smoke at the transfer station, if you were anywhere nearby, close to the site, you would see that it wouldn't be safe to be putting people there to observe the lava flow. But as we've been telling you before, if and when it's safe to allow for public viewing of the flow, we definitely support that. So again, we will be trying to move in that direction when it's safe to do that, because this is a very significant event. It's a very historical event. Hopefully not a tragic event, and up until now we haven't had any injuries or problems, and we'd like to keep it that way. So again, thank you, and we will be working on it.
Thank you, Darrell. We'll now hear from Mayor Billy Kenoi.
Thank you, Darrell. Really appreciate it. You know, every day, every week brings, new information regarding advancement and impact. And just very thankful, Darrell, again, for your continued leadership that inspires great confidence in our community, in our administration, and throughout the county of Hawaii. Not a day goes by, Darrell, we go over a myriad of issues and challenges we're facing, and my basic request is, Darrell, can I get you anything? Is there any agency support that we need to provide? Are there extra resources we need? Do we have to go to the county council to ask for additional appropriations, and what decisions need to be made? And just get great confidence. I walk into the Monday evening at the community center today, and you see our community volunteers sitting here, our CERT team members, again, that I saw earlier today. Aloha to all of you that just sat over lunch today with the Pahoa Main Street Community Association of Pahoa. And to reiterate what Darrell said, our goal is to keep Lower Puna and the town of Pahoa a vibrant place to continue to be called home. And, we're all committed to that, to make sure that services, programs that people need, regardless of what happens, continues to be provided. And so we make that progress every day. Transportation, met with Tiffany Kai, and our transportation people today. And we'll have maps up in the community center, the community information center, that will show very shortly on GIS all the routes that the different buses will take depending on what roadways and access we're currently using, so everybody has an idea about transportation. I want to thank all of our Hawaii County firefighters providing service to Lower Puna. I know some people had to move from Kona and around the island to provide that additional service, to continue to provide the services the people of Puna need. So mahalo to all of you and what you guys do. Mahalo. I see our commander of Puna back there, Jelsma. Thank you so much for the continued work of the men and women out on the streets. We're doing a wonderful job of not only keeping everybody safe, but keeping everybody calling each other friends, families, and neighbors, and always with a smile and aloha, along with our Hawaii National Guard. So thank you all you guys for what you guys are doing. As you guys know, we learn something every week, and to see the lava advance the past week has been very awakening in a way, because you see it stop, and you see the front of the lobe stop. And last week we saw a little advancement, and we thought, phew. And then this last week we saw a lot of activity. Other breakouts that the USGS better explained, that the scientists at HVO are closely monitoring, that our team is going out on a daily basis. but there's a lot of activity up ahead that's pushed out in a couple different directions that we all continue to monitor closely. And so, just wanted to continue to share with all of you that anything we can do, that anything you need. I'm so thankful to call Puna home, to raise our family here, to see you guys every week. I look at the parking lot and I know what would happen with the lava, because crowded or not too crowded. I said, oh, must have had more activity last couple of days. They've been more crowded this week. But it's been, I think, great for all of us to talk story weekly, to listen, to learn, to share, to help, to assist. Makes you proud to call Hawaii home. And I'm really appreciative to be out here every week with such a wonderful group and team of folks and agencies. And, I see our senator, he's here every week. Where do you stand? Senator Russell. Oh, he leaves right about the time you call him politician, you think, oh, yeah. How's that, Senator? I'd like to thank the Senator. He sent me one text to figure out how in this next legislative session we can provide appropriations and funding. I just wanted to point out that email, so now he got to deliver on it. Senator, I look forward to working with you on how to help our people in Puna this legislative session. I see Representative Joy here, Buenaventura, aloha. You guys, for us guys, county, state, federal, the only way we can do our jobs in the most meaningful, important way possible is by working together. To have county, council representative, to have our state representative and our state senator all working as a team with our federal and congressional delegation. It's really why we do what we do, is to make sure that all of you get what you need. So we'll continue to do our very best. Thanks for sticking together, thanks for helping each other, and thanks for really having a wonderful spirit of aloha, kindness, and compassion for everyone. Mahalo Puna. Thank you. Thanks, Mary. Aloha.
And I just wanted to let you know that Mary is one of 4 sign language interpreters on the entire island. Very busy. Thank you so much. Oh, 1 of 3, sorry. I thought you were the 4th. Okay, thank you very much. So everybody can go and get their questions answered. And we look forward to seeing you next week.